Okay, we're going to begin now. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Ana Maria Selhuber, and I'm a psychoanalyst and an emergency psychologist that has been working with journalists for 17 years now. Basically, in my company, we give therapy to journalists, and we work with organizations like IWMF, mainly with IWMF in my case, and we do projects like the guide that you're going to be able to give a little taste of it today. Okay? First of all, I would like to invite you to share this because I would like you to open it, whether if it's in your computer or your phone, you can open the guide because we're going to visit a little parts of it. But first, I'm going to ask those who feel like it to share some ideas, some stories of your own as journalists, okay? In that case, whenever you talk about things that are personal to you, you can make sure that we are not going to point the cameras at you, and I would ask you not to give the name and not to give specific things because this is for reasons of security, okay? Also, you can write them down to the table and I will read them for you. So if you want to share something that has happened to you in terms of violence that you have lived, if you have been harassed in some way, if you had been covering war zones or mobs or whatever it is in which you didn't feel safe, please feel free either to talk about it without saying your name. And for example, if you, I don't know, if it was in Central America, you're not going to say the country, you're going to say America, so that nobody can see who you are, okay? And if you feel even more comfortable writing it down and passing it on to me, I will read it for you, okay? So that's settled? Okay. Okay, today we're going to talk about the interactive self-care for women and non-binary. And it is very important that we can start, okay, this is not moving. Well, let me do it like this, I think. Hold a second. There we go. Okay. Raise your hands. Which one of you has been attacked, targeted, or harassed online or in any other way? Okay, okay, okay. Several hands raised. Okay. Are you willing to share with the group? Please raise your hands if you are. If you're not, feel free not to. I can give examples, general examples. Okay, it's a tough one, right? Sharing that kind of things with a group. Okay, it's fine. If you pass it on to me, what we are going to do with this is that we are going to work on that specific case. What did you do? What was your reaction? And what could you have done differently? So that we can change our perspective of what can be done in certain circumstances. We are not going to dividing on small groups because I think it's going to be better. It's not such a big group, and we can do it like that. Okay? So let's put something in mind, okay? One case in mind. For example, you are in a foreign country, okay, in which women and non-binary are usually targeted, and you have to go to a manifestation of people, a lot of people, a crowded place with a lot of people, and men start following you, touching you, and saying things to you. What would you do? Just start thinking. And these are cases that I have worked with patients. This is not just hypothetical. This is real, okay? This is something that can happen to any of you. That you're going to be walking by and men are going to start saying things to you, and then they are going to start following you, and then they're going to start trying to touch you or touching you. What would you do? And please feel free to say what comes to your mind. Don't be shy. Come on. Come on. What would you say? I will pass the microphone. What would you do? What do you think you should do in that case? Run, stay still, shout, what would you do?
I think it depends where you are, right? Which country you're in.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Give me examples in your experience.
So, sorry. Yeah, so my experience is mainly being assaulted in Latin America. And so for me, it was very difficult because I was the only female in that setting. And I wasn't aware of who I had to trust and support me. So I think it's important to know who you have around you, who you can trust and support. And I would really say that it's really helpful to have other people if you can be working with other people. In some instances, it might be helpful to shout. In other instances, it might make things worse. And in some instances, it might be helpful to try and get support from like the police. But again, in some instances, it might make things worse. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Someone else would like to share? Yes. This is an interactive session.
Let's open it up. I think one of my instinctive reactions would also be kind of scouting and looking around what is around me in the area. So whether, you know, that's a restaurant or a library or a shop, not necessarily already going in there, but just knowing that there is a place where it's not just me in the middle of a street. Most of my experience would also come from Latin America. And there also preventively, I think I would kind of figure out some people I know in the city that don't necessarily work with me, but that could be good to reach out to, look at my clothing, what I wear. Not in terms of like, oh, I'm not gonna elicit a response, but like I often wear a one piece underneath my clothing in case I'm photographing or I'm running around, just so that I cannot mistake, you know, something in the area for a hand that touches me or something. I feel a little bit more safe like that.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Somebody else would like to share?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear your experiences from, yeah, because like I'm from Finland and it's considered to be quite safe, but I still have had situations where I have felt still unsafe or somebody has shouted something on the street. And my instinctive reaction would just be to ignore, to not like give any attention, just like keep walking or keep going somewhere safe, which I don't know if that's like the right thing to do. But I think it also says a lot about like where you come from, because I don't really protect myself in any other ways than just being like aware and having, you know, knowing where I'm going and yeah, kind of looking around and stuff. So it's interesting to hear.
Thank you. I think as a black person who also identifies as non-binary, it's relatively difficult. I mean, in some situations, I'd just rather not say anything. But sometimes to say something, you are the problem. So, you know, I think my instinct would say I should say something. But sometimes to say something, then I put myself in a state of being the problem.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to share something? Yes.
Hi. I think sometimes when you don't say something, in my instance, the first thing I do is push back. Because if you don't, then it empowers the other, I was going to use French. It empowers the other people to kind of join and it becomes a mob. So the moment you push back and you don't engage, you don't shut up, but you push back at the person, you address the person who's made that comment or that attempt at you, and you move on. But not to let them get away with it. I've seen you, I know you, I say my piece, but I'm not going to shut up because it empowers the other mob. It becomes a mob situation. So that's what I've seen in my part of the world anyway, because if you shut up, then it becomes I come from Kenya. If you shut up, then it becomes a mob situation, so you need to push back.
I've worked with several patients from Kenya. And yeah, it's different in every country. It is very different. Does somebody else wants to talk? Yes, of course.
So I've had different reactions in different places. I'm originally from Mexico, and not even just in one country, but in a story, sometimes too isolated to run away, which a lot of times is my first instinct, is to just get away, but sometimes that means leaving the story behind, so it's not a satisfying response that I have. But sometimes you can't, so kind of ignore it or say something. Kind of always let someone know where I am. Well, I do safety now for journalists, but when I would report, always letting know someone, where I was.
Yes.
During the war in ex-Yugoslavia, I was a war reporter, and I always choose a short man to be a big and strong man. And cameraman, yes, always going behind me, and I put in front of me something like this. It's protect me all the time. Of course, I heard some very bad words. They told, especially when the people could see the name of the crew, the name of the media, they shouting and they say some rude things, some hate speech or something like this. But with, unfortunately, a big guy behind and a microphone in the front, it was okay.
Thank you. One last comment? No, we're cool? Okay. Let's review. There are many options to do here. There are many things we can do. But it is going to depend on the situation. So the first thing we all have to do, well, you all have to do because I'm not a journalist. The first thing you all have to do is to be prepared. And for that, you first have to make a risk assessment of any work you're going to do in any place. That's the first thing. The second thing is to make a plan, a safety plan. For example, in Mexico City, I'm from Mexico City, in the Zócalo, in the main plaza of Mexico City, sometimes it gets really crowded. And the political groups send people to push, to shout, to break windows, to push people, to hit people, okay? You need to have 3 routes of escape. But you have to have them already, not when you're getting there. And that was one of the first comments, right? Not when you're getting there. You have to have them prior to that. And you have to have, yes, somebody said, a place I can hide, but you have to have them scoop before you get there, not when you're already there and in panic, because people is throwing water at you or gases, or they're shouting, or they're persecuting you. With my patients, I've learned, for example, that the world in the Arab world, it's really hard for women, really, really hard. And some of them have told me that yes, they know some people there, and they get a crew there, but even the crew stays out of it, and they do not protect them. So they are left alone. And I'm talking about people from the Washington Post, the LA Times, the New York Times, the Guardian. I'm talking about big media. But the people from that region do not protect them. So, yes, when you know them very well, you can have them protect you. It's a team. But if you don't know them, don't be safe just because you have a man near you, behind you. Get to meet them first. You see? It's very, very different. It's not the same in one region and in the other. In general, in Latin America, a man alone, yes, you can face him. You were saying behind that you're going to, same as in Kenya. If it's one man, you can turn to him and you can put yourself in. I have a patient that is from a part of Europe. I'm not going to say where, but that's what she does, okay? And And it works for her. But if it's a group, do not do it, because they're going to attack you. So you have to know if it's one, if it's several. And the best policy in general terms, if you don't know where you are or what you want to do, what do you have to do, is to run and be safe. I did Kung Fu for many, many years, 15 years. And our motto then was, if it's many, we run. If it's a few, we hide. And if it's one, to fight fighters because we are proud of being strong. Okay? But if it's many, I don't know. So the best way is to have routes of escape and be safe. Not confronting is the best policy in general terms. I do understand her because I do have patients from Kenya. And yes, it's a different, but you don't know that maybe. Another important part is to know the region and to know not only the political aspects of it or the groups that are in shock, but also to know their idiosyncrasy. What do they think? How do they behave with women, with non-binary? What's their policy there, their social policy, not the one that's put by the politicians, but the one that the social groups have, okay? So yes, in this scenario, the best thing you can do is always hide, run, do not confront. And same thing with online abuse. It's exactly the same thing with online abuse, okay? In the case of online abuse, because at one point in your career, I'm sure that those with most experience, you have been targeted online. I'm sure of it. There's no way you haven't. And those who are starting, you're gonna be harassed online. Okay? So you have to distinguish between trolls, and that's part of the guide, of the main key points of the theoretical part of the guide, that is very short, it's just a few pages, and it is that you have to differentiate between trolls and real threats. And real threats usually comes from governments or from organized crime groups, okay? But if it's a troll, do not give them what they want. The key point is that you as women, you as non-binary, you as someone who's been targeted for any reason, even personally, as a journalist, from someone who's sending that violence to you, it's because they are afraid of you or they are envious of you. Always. For example, a husband that is abusive with his wife is because he's been taught that women are more than them. In the central region of America, in Central America, mothers taught their kids from the very age, don't let your brother stand up. You have to put the table for him. Don't let him wash his clothes. And then they grow up thinking, not that they are strong, but that they are useless. And that's where machismo starts. Okay? It's funny, it's not men who create machismo, it's women, making them believe that they are worthless, that they are incapable of living without a woman. And that's why when a man at 40 gets divorced, he rapidly tries to find another woman because he thinks that he's not going to be able to survive with that one. So we're not the weak ones in their eyes. We are the strong ones. They need us to survive. So they feel powerless in front of us, and that's why they attack us. So that violence is not just saying awful things or even punching you, okay? Violence is putting the boat in your neck so that you won't realize that you're superior. And I'm not saying we are, okay? I think we're equal. But they think you are superior. When a government attacks you, they are attacking you because you're doing a great journalistic work. Right? It's true. And then they're afraid of what can happen to them if you continue. When the organized crimes attack you, they attack you because you are not letting them work in that area as they used to, with the freedom they used to. So they are attacking you because you're doing a good job. They're afraid of you. They're afraid of what can happen by the pieces of journalists you are doing against them. So the power is with the victim, always. But that's hard to understand, right? But it's like that. It's always like that in any case of violence, all right? But you cannot use that violence to confront or to do things, because then you're going to provoke more violence. In the case of trolls, they're envious of you having so much followers, of so much attention. They want that attention. They want those followers. So they jump in your bus of success to have the same attention. So the best policy is simply not answering, okay? I'm sorry I'm watching the watch because we have a short term, so I don't want to I want to give you an exercise at the end, so I don't want to go beyond that, okay? So these are the main aspects that you need to understand. You have the power, you have to use it to protect you, not to attack, okay? And you have to understand why. The first thing is to make an assessment. If they know things about you, for example, online, that you have never put online, most certainly it's a real threat, not just a troll. And then you have to take it seriously, right? Because then you can be really in danger. Another important thing that I have found in all these years working with all of you is that you need to learn, and I'm sure that those with a lot of experience are going to agree with me, when to hit a certain politician and when to retire a little bit and then go back and leave it some air. Because if you keep on going and going every single week with the same person, eventually they're going to bite. Eventually, you're going to have a man putting a gun in your head. This has happened to a lot of journalists I've worked with, saying, shut up or you're dead. In Latin America, that's in Mexico, it's the everyday practice. Fortunately, most of the times they give a warning first, but do not get to that extreme, okay? And I'm talking like this because I see a lot of young faces. So I think it's a very good opportunity for people like you to enrich them, that they are starting their work so that they can know how to act and how to react to certain circumstances. Any thoughts that you would like to share with them? Okay, let's continue then. So, now that we know this, what do you think you would do? How would you scoop the place first? They're thinking, I can see that.
Like a Google Maps check, maybe checking also the camera, so you can actually see what it's like and not just the streets, and maybe looking where roads are blocked. Yeah, that.
Yes, perfect, yes. And you can also find out, the Red Cross, I was a volunteer for the Red Cross for many, many years. The Red Cross is a perfect place to hide. There's a Red Cross everywhere. Everywhere. So whenever my psychologist or me are going into a dangerous zone, we always find the Red Cross there. And we find the route there. And we also talk to the people of the Red Cross. In our case, it's easy because we were with them for a long time, in case we need something. But you have to find also people that can help you in those circumstances. And you can have places like, for example, banks, churches, they're also good in that instances. Schools, places where you buy big stores like Walmart or like any of those. That kind of places usually have high security. So those are the places you need to find. And you need to find not just one, at least 3 in different directions so that you can be safe, okay? Let's go to another scenario, okay? Imagine that you are covering a news, any news you want, and suddenly you're taken by the police and arrested. What would you do? And this happens more often than you think, and in many, many countries, many of them. So what would you do? Prior to going there, and then while you're there?
So I think it really depends not just on the country, but on the place, and knowing what the laws are, but also how they're enforced, because we all know there's a difference between what the law says your rights are and what your rights actually are. For me, personally, my disposition is to be very polite and compliant, just because that's what works for me. But other times people are going to be read differently. I think knowing which lawyer you can call, if it's a place that has arrest, having that number memorized or written down on your arm in black Sharpie, having location tracking, if it's a place that you're going where there's a risk of arrest, again, like someone knowing where you are, so that if you go dark, maybe they'll see that your phone is in a police station. And the person who's tracking me also have the phone number of the lawyer, so that there's just a plan in place of what to do if I'm arrested.
Yes. Who agrees with her? Okay. We all do. Yes, exactly. Before going to any place where there's going to be riots or things like that, and especially in countries where policemen, in Mexico, again, and I'm talking about Mexico because I live there, if you see a policeman, you run the other way, period. That's as easy as that. And in Kenya, it's like that too, right? Am I right? Yes, I know. They're worse than the rest of the people, usually. So, I mean, not all policemen. I've worked with policemen. I trained policemen sometimes, and I do sensitivity to things with the police in Mexico City. But but you cannot feel safe, okay? You can really not feel safe around policemen. And you don't have to be polite. That's not going to work. You have to be precise. That's the only thing that I would change to your scheme of protection. But yes, before you go to any place, whatever it is, you need to have someone following you. Usually, if you work in the media is going to do that for you, or at least they should be doing that for you. Some do, some don't, but they should be doing that for you. They should be following you, and they should be having your geolocation, and they should be following you, and you should be reporting to them in precise times. For example, if you don't work with the media and you're a freelancer, then you have to have someone, a husband, a boyfriend, a brother, a girlfriend, a wife, whomever, okay? Yes, please say it.
And always in the same time. And if you are not answer and they call you in that time, it's something wrong.
Exactly. You have to make, like, I'm going to at 11 in the morning when I am arriving, I'm going to report with you. Then at I don't know, at 1 in the afternoon. And then at 3 in the afternoon. You have to make those calls, or not text, because text can be fake. The other people can be doing the texting for you. It has to be a call, okay? And you have to have someone monitoring you. Especially, don't look panic, okay? If you're safe, everything's gonna be okay. Because I see some faces like, oh my God, where did I came from? What am I gonna do? But no, the more you know about these things, the better protected you're gonna be. I've made safety my life, really. It's part of my life. okay? And not just because I live in Mexico, but because I was a volunteer for the Red Cross as the head of the psychological department for natural disasters response. But safety, it's something that protects you, and you can live much more relaxed. Then you can forget about fear because you know what to do. And here's what I want to talk about, another important aspect of violence and trauma. Trauma is not it doesn't come because of the situation. It constructs itself because you, under that situation, make the assessment that you didn't do it right, that you couldn't protect yourself in a better way. For example, two people in the same circumstance, if one reacts properly and it's put in, he or she put themselves in safety fast, they're not gonna develop any trauma. But if instead they feel, let's say an earthquake, let's put it in easy terms. There's an earthquake, and if you know what you have to do, that you go out calmly and you know where to go. For example, whenever I go to a concert, I love classical music. Whenever I go to the concert, even I know the place I usually go to, I always look where I'm sitting and where I'm going to be living in case of fire or in case of an earthquake. Because Mexico City, well, you know, if you read the papers, you know that we have tiny little shakes every now and then, okay? And once I know where I'm going to escape, what I'm going to do, if I have to jump the chairs, if I have to go where, then I sit, I relax, and I enjoy the concert. But if I don't do that, and an earthquake comes, I'm going to be traumatized by it. So it's not the earthquake, it's not the riot that went wrong, it's not the war. It's what you do with it. It's how you react to it. That's why the first thing when we psychologists go to a place in which there's been the possibility of trauma, the first thing we do is talk about how you can manage this situation better. What did you do? How can you improve your reaction to these kind of things to avoid trauma? Just by talking to people about what they can do next, you're going to lower 80% the post-traumatic stress disorder occurrence.
I have a question about blame and shame. I had PTSD through the sexual assault that I experienced, and I think that I understand what you're saying about planning and prevention, but what I'm concerned about is this idea that the blame is on us, when actually the perpetrator who hurts us really should be the person held responsible, right? So the blame is on us to fix things that people decided to do against us. So that's my question that has come up from what you've said there.
I've worked with many, many women who had been raped. Many, unfortunately. And children. The response is always the same. To feel guilty and to feel ashamed. And that's why they don't go to a lawyer to say, I'm going to sue this son of you know what. You know? Because our cultures, no matter if you're Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, African, from Africa, from Europe, from America, it's always the same. It's always the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, it's, okay, please don't feel bad, because I'm not trying to be aggressive towards any religion. My family is Catholic, okay? And I respect all of them. I study them all, and I love studying religions. But the myth of Adam and Eve is awful, because it happens to be that Adam and Eve were very happy in their beautiful place, and so did the snake came and tempted Eve, and Eve said yes. And once Eve said yes, Adam couldn't refuse, because men have no brains. Because men have no will in front of a woman, right? The things we were talking about first. I don't believe that, okay? I think men and women are equal. and we're worth the same, exactly the same, and we're capable of the same. They're stronger. We endure more pain. Ask any woman who has given birth, okay? But our cultures have made us believe that in front of a voluptuous woman, a sexy woman, men cannot resist. As if they were brainless snakes. Right? So, yeah, that's the main problem. That then the victim feels that is to blame. But as I always tell my patients, the only one to blame here is that person. How can it, for example, I've seen cases in which they have been raped when they were 4 or 5. How can a 5-year-old can be blamed for a 40-old male raping her? Of course, it cannot be, but still, that person at his 30s feels it's their fault because they seduce the man. And that's the general idea, that you seduce the man, that women seduce men, and that they are powerless in front of. That's why they see us as these powerful beings against which they don't have anything to do, right? That's the real problem. But, I mean, it's never the fault of the victim. It's always the fault of that. And the important part here is that sexual assault is always done by men who feel they have it too little, and they are never going to satisfy. And I'm not talking vulgarities. I'm talking facts, okay? And that they are never going to satisfy a woman, and they need younger women that are not going to say no, that they have to take it because if not, they're going to be rejected. That's the problem with the perpetrator of sexual acts. Or they need to reduce women, powerful women, journalist women, to sexual objects. Because what their thoughts, what they're saying, what they're writing, what they're capturing in a photo is offensive to them because it shows their reality. So they try, again, in Kenya, it's very, very common that they use sexual harassment. And it's also very, very common. For example, in countries like Iran, it's very common that they use online harassment to make the woman stop because they know that the woman is going to feel guilty, because they know that the woman is going to feel dirty, because they know the reactions that the woman is going to have. And they use it because of that, to reduce us to sexual objects. I don't know if this helped. I don't know if this answer. Yes? You're welcome. Someone else would like to talk? Okay. So, going back to what we can do, and trauma, again, we need to understand that trauma is when we say, I didn't do it right. I am not trusting myself to be protected. And once you start not trusting yourself, that's when trauma occurs. And it's awful, but trauma is like a fungus that eats your brain. If you see a brain that doesn't have post-traumatic stress disorder and a brain with post-traumatic stress disorder in an MRI, okay, and they answer a simple question as, what are you going to eat today? The brain without the trauma is going to light 2 or 3 parts of the brain that are related to what I'm going to eat. In the case of the PTSD brain, the whole brain is going to light up. And they're not going to be able to even find a simple answer to what they're going to eat that day. They're going to doubt themselves. And doubt is going to come and take over their families, their jobs, their personal beliefs, everything. That's what PTSD. That's really PTSD, not trusting to yourself for anything, right? Those who have been there, you know. Yeah? Okay. Anyone wants to make any question? Because I would like to make a little exercise. This has been tough, I know, for some of you more than others. So I would like to make a little exercise to relax, okay? And to tell you that the key to fight all of this is first to be safe, second to make a routine in your life that includes, yes, work that is meaningful for you and that you enjoy, but it's also good food, good water consumption, sleeping enough hours during the day, taking care of your body, and also it needs to incorporate two things. One, something that relaxes you once the job is done. Anything. And believe me, anything can do. I propose yoga, meditation, Tai Chi. But that's my thing. I mean, I've been doing Kung Fu for so many years. Of course, nowadays, at my 62 years old, I'm not going to be doing Kung Fu. So I do Tai Chi. All right? That's similar. I don't kick anyone, which is very satisfying sometimes, but still, I relax a little bit more, right? But you can also, I don't know, walk your pets, play with your kids. If you have kids or grandkids, play with them. I have grandkids, okay? And they're my grandnephews and my nephew, because they're the same. My brother is much younger than me. So I play with them, and when I play with them, it's, oh my God, it's all the relaxation I need. Because I invent all kinds of things for them. For example, we make water balloons, and then we go quietly and start throwing them to the grown-ups, and well, they love it. They love it, and it doesn't matter if it's inside the house. It will dry, you know? So kids love it, but I love it, and I laugh. Okay? I'm also a very weird person in many ways. So I love Xbox. I do play shooters, yes. I'm sorry, but I love it. And I love it because I play with my nephews and my grandnephews, and I play with a group of friends that I've made over the years, all of them much younger than me. Their mothers know me. Their mothers know I'm not a predator. I invited them to my house, okay, so that they know that their kids are safe. But I laugh with them. I laugh so much with all of them. We do all kinds of goofy things. I also laugh with my cats. You know? So find things that relax you, and that the second thing is that make you joyful. Because yes, there are awful things happening in the world, awful. But there's also joy in life. We all are here for a reason. And we are more than them, many more, right? So be joyful. I start my day, and I suggest you do it for 1 week. Just give it a ride for 1 week. Singing and dancing one song. My cat, especially one of them, the one that sleeps with me, I put the music and she turns to me like, oh, here comes the crazy one. Because I start jumping and singing. Sometimes to the fourth movement of the Beethoven symphony, that is the Ode for Joy, okay? But you have to dance one song and sing with all your lungs one song a day. Start your day like that. Just one song. 3 minutes, 4 minutes is what it takes. It's not too much, right? But if you start your day like that, and you close your day with anything that makes you joyful, that makes you laugh, that relaxes you, it can be running, it can do exercises, going out with friends, whatever it is that works for you. It doesn't have to be what it works for me. I end my day with meditation and decreting because I study theosophy, but that works for me. It doesn't have to work for you. Whatever works for you, okay? And include in that routine also breathing. And I know you say, I breathe every day. I'm breathing right now. Are you breathing really? Are you really doing it okay? Are you doing it properly? Let's take it to the run, okay? I can guarantee you that at least half of everybody here, well, maybe I relax you enough, is not breathing properly. So I want you all to lay down a little bit, and we're going to do the main exercise that in the guide you're going to find them, okay, in the section of exercises, you'll find the first one, diaphragmatic breathing. And this breathing has been put to the test by neurologists, cardiologists, psychologists, psychiatrists, endocrinologists. And the more recent studies, I found them this year by gastroenterologists. They help with gastritis. I am actually now doing it for my gastritis, and it's helping me. I mean, I did it, but I did all the things also, but I'm focusing more in this particular exercise now, okay? So let's just put one hand in your chest, another hand in your stomach, close your eyes, and simply look at your breathing. What parts of your body moves when you inhale? What parts of your body move down or up when you exhale? Just look at it. Okay? How many of you inflate your stomach first and your chest second? Look around. Very few, but very few. See? The rest is breathing half. And breathing half means half the oxygen to your brain, half the oxygen to your bloodstream. And that, per se, is physical stress. Just for that, you're in physical stress. Okay? So now we're going to do 3 rounds of this breathing. I'm going to teach you, and I promise you that in 3 minutes we're going to be out. Okay? We're going to finish with this, all right? But what we're going to do is we are going to inflate. No, don't do it. Let me explain first. You're going to inflate your stomach first, your chest second, in a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Or at your rhythm. I need more than 3, but I've been meditating for many, many years. Okay, so each one to your rhythm. I'm going to be counting, but do it at your rhythm. Then you're going to hold the breath the same amount of time in which you inhale. If it was a count in 3, you hold 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to exhale, stomach first, chest second, again in a count of 3. And we're going to do 3 of this. Let me tell you that I've had patients, for example, that had been wrongfully incarcerated and tortured, okay? And they've all obviously have had panic attacks, severe panic attacks with hallucinatory events because of the post-traumatic stress. And with this technique, we stop that. With this technique, we have made patients who are being moved to a different country because they are being targeted and they're in a safe place waiting for the organizations to move them. Imagine the anxiety that they can get killed, their families can get killed. We have made them sleep for at least 4 hours in a row, which is a lot in those circumstances. Okay? So it's simple. Yes, you can do it walking, laying down, anyway. But it really helps. And the more you do it, the more the benefits you're going to find. So again, give it a try for 1 week, 3 times a day. It's 1 minute each time. Okay? So let's start. Okay, close your eyes. Inhale all through the nose, all through the nose. Inhale slowly in a count of 3, 4, depending on you. Hold your breath, same amount of time. And exhale, stomach first, chest second, in the same amount of time. And repeat. Inhale, stomach first, chest second, 2, 3. Hold your breath, 2, 3. Exhale, stomach first, chest second, 2, 3. One last time. Inhale, stomach first, chest second, 2, 3. Hold your breath, 2, 3. Exhale, stomach first, chest second. Okay, how do you feel? A little bit more relaxed? Tiny bit. And maybe you're more awake because the oxygen makes you. If you're going to do it at night, breathe, exhale through your mouth because that's going to put you to sleep. Like, you know, making a sound like like dogs do. Like, ah, nice. Or simply like, okay? All right? Well, with this, yes.
Thank you so much, Anna. I just wanted to say a quick word from the IWMF. I'm Nadine Hoffman. I'm the Deputy Director at the IWMF. With huge thanks to Anna Zellhuber for writing the mental health guide that we published in December. You all should have a QR code that'll take you to that. So please do dive in, because we focused that guide on online violence. But really, as we've been talking about today, it's for much more than that. So just wanted to say thank you, and please seek us out. We also provide emergency support. There's also safety clinics happening at this conference that ACOS is sponsoring, and that Anna is one of the experts who is providing sessions at, so you can also access her that way. But please feel free to come and talk to us after today's session. We'd love to be able to support you. Thank you.
Thank you.